So real quickly, I want to get into this article that's called Still God's Chosen Nation. So basically what the governing body do with their literature is that they push this biased narrative to try to inculcate the organization into the scriptures. The reality is religion never played a role in the scriptures, unless it was through the eyes of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Basically, religion is doctrines that are constructed by men, and what they would do with our book, the historical scriptures, the holy writings, they would take it and inculcate all kind of pagan customs and Babylonian teachings and hijack it, and then try to always inculcate, well, he was talking about the organization. They didn't have an organization in Bible times, and they definitely wasn't called themselves Jehovah's Witnesses. And Yahweh's name is not Jehovah. The J didn't even exist in Hebrew. It didn't exist in any language at all, for that fact. And it's not even a way you can translate from it, because they had no way of deciphering the letter J. It didn't exist. So the name is a lie. The whole witnesses aspect is a lie. They added the witnesses in there to try to make it justifiable as, see, we're Jehovah's Witnesses. Look, Jehovah said we're his witnesses in that one scripture. But they don't look at the original copies in the Hebrew. It's so hilarious. But I'm going to dissect the heck out of this, and you're going to see that they lied, okay? Flat out lied. The article is, it's smooth, and that's how they mislead you, because, they got that smooth speech. Watch out for them. They're talking about everybody apostate that exposed them. The reality is they are ruled by apostates, okay? And I'm about to dissect this badly, because God's word is that sword. Don't try to put no watchtower attached to that. Don't try to put no Awake magazine and attached to that. No reasoning from the scriptures book, but it's still through the eyes of the society with the definitions from the society. And then they cite scriptures that only justify what the society wants to choose. The churches do the same thing. I'm about to dissect this right now. Let's jump right into the fact that God really reject the Israelites, his chosen people, since they say yes, because they rejected the Messiah and they was beyond recovery, and God broke his promise that he made with Abraham. So God is a liar, because now he break promises, but he dealt with the Gentiles, who was far worse than the Jews, and who actually influenced the Jews to do the things that they did, like break the commandments. They thought that they was teaching that the laws was done away with. They accepted the fact that that they should listen to these people. They started making idols and carved images, and they started listening to the eyes of these outside nations, religions, right? And it led to their downfall. And Jehovah's Witnesses do the same thing today, but then call themselves the truth. I'm about to dissect the mess out of this one with the scriptures. Let's get right into it. Did God really reject his people? Let's jump right into it. Go to Romans chapter 11 and read verse 1, and it'll get you right to it. Like as plain as day, that best answer you can get directly. Did he reject his people? Let's see. So if you jump into the Berean Study Bible, right, or any translation for that fact, let's read. A remnant chosen by grace. All right. I ask then, did God reject his people? Certainly not. I am an Israelite myself, a descendant of Abraham from the tribe of Benjamin. See that? Let's read it again. I ask then, did God reject his people? Certainly not. I am an Israelite myself, a descendant of Abraham from the tribe of Benjamin. Let's keep reading. God did not reject his people, whom he foreknew. You see that again? Let's keep reading. Do you not know what the scriptures say about Elijah? They say Elijah, how he appealed to, or Elohim, God, against Israel, right? Elohim, they have killed your prophets and torn down your altars. I am the only one left, and they're seeking my life as well. You see this? You see this? Paul made it very clear. It's clear as day. Paul keep hurting them. First they said that Paul was teaching that the laws were done away with. We already dissected that in the last video, even with Paul's words, right? And now they're saying that the house was abandoned of the Israelites. Yeah, it was abandoned, but that don't mean you can't be regathered. You can be abandoned and led, into a lost. But that don't mean you can't be gathered again. Let's keep going though. You'll get what I mean. So let's jump ahead. Romans 9:4. They are Israelites, and to them belong the adoption, the glory, the covenants, the giving of the law, the worship, and the promises. Oh snap. He again in Romans through Paul. It all belonged to the Israelites, because this was Yahweh's chosen nation. And it's even talking about this in books far after, the whole incident with the Messiah. See how they lie to you? Let's keep looking to see if he rejected the Israelites. Hebrews 8:10. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith Elohim. I will put my laws into their mind and write them in their hearts, and I will be to them a God, and they shall be to me a people. Once again, Israel is whom Yahweh is the God over. He is the God of the Israelites. Gentiles will be grafted in, of course, because it talks about branches and so forth. But predominantly, he is the God of the Israelites. The rest of them just will be given that mercy to become one into the fold under Israel. Don't forget that, the different levels of the arrangement. Let's look at Genesis 17:7. I will confirm my covenant with you and your descendants after you from generation to generation. Talking about lineages and tribes. This is the everlasting covenant. See that? Everlasting. Everlasting means without end. You can't undo the promise of Yah. Just because humans go off course does not mean that you can alter the purpose of what Yah is doing. He always got a way, and he never break his promises. And he promised Abraham that through his lineages and his seeds that the world shall be blessed. That's how the entire world will be blessed, through Israel. These are the descendants, right? Through these bloodlines and tribes, the same in which the Messiah sprung forth from. Let's keep reading. I will always be, you see that? Your God, talking about the Israelites, and the God of your descendants after you. See? The Hebrew Israelites. Look at Ezekiel 37:25. They will live in the land I gave to the servant Jacob, the land where your ancestors lived. They and their children's children will live there. How long? Forever. And David, my servant, will be their prince. How long? Forever. How can he reject them and he's done with them, but you continue to see this everlasting covenant forever and ever and ever? Their kids and their kids. And this person going to be anointed to be the king. It's still according to tribes, according to Israel. See how they lie to you? Let's keep reading. Back to Romans 11:1. I asked then, has God rejected his own people, the nation of Israel? Of course not. I myself am an Israelite, a descendant of Abraham and a member of what tribe? The tribe of Benjamin. Jeremiah 31:33. But this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, declared Elohim. I will put my law within them, and I will write it on their hearts, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. See that again? Revelation 7:4. Look at this. Oh, man. And I heard the number of the seal, 144,000 sealed from, you guessed it, every tribe of the sons of Israel. Joe's witnesses would be like, oh, no, we understand that it's going to name tribes, but he's not talking about tribes. It just say tribes, and he's really talking about those who are part of the organization, the spiritual. So you spiritually assigned to a tribe? What kind of sense do that make? Like, they are so just weird, and they come up with stuff that is just baloney, but you believe it because when you in it, you're like, yeah, fine, yeah, they descendants still live. That's like if your great grandfather and he make a promise with him that can never be undone, it's everlasting, and then he say through your descendants the world should be blessed. He talking to this particular group of people in which these tribes stem from. They descendants stem all the way down to this day through their family tree. Right? They'll make like, oh, they are gone. They died off? Like, ooh. They funny. They be lying, man. Genesis 49:10. Look at this. The scepter shall not depart from Yahudah, which is Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, until what? Tribute comes to him, and to him shall be the obedience of the peoples. Once again, the tribe of Yehudah, Judah, was chosen to rule, and the staff of rulership in their kingdoms under Yah and Yahushua, it would not be passed on from them until the obedience come forth from all people, and this is yet future. So how can he be done with them as a nation? Like, they lying to you. Let's keep going. Hebrews 7:4. For it is evident that our Yahushua, or Messiah, was descended from what tribe? Yahudah, the tribe of Judah. Even the Messiah stemmed forth from a tribe. And you acting like tribes don't matter and it's done away with? Get out of here. And in connection with that tribe, Moshe, which is, they say Moses now, said nothing about priests. See that? Because the tribe of Yehudah was chosen, to be a ruling, in regards to kingdoms. And then others was chosen to be like priestess and so forth, right? It's promises that's made with tribes according to certain things that they will be doing. You can read more into that if you do your research. Jeremiah 31 through 34. Behold, the days are coming, declares Elohim, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel. See, even a new covenant will be, there for the house of Israel again. And the house of Judah, see that? A tribe, right? Not like the covenant that I made with their fathers. See, I talking about their ancestors? On the day when I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt. My covenant that they broke, though I was their husband, declares Yahweh. See, Yahweh is married to Israel. And Yahweh already teaches us he don't even believe in divorce, right? Unless on the grounds of adultery. But Yahweh is faithful, and even if it is adultery, he still would rather you try to work it out rather than just run into the option of divorce, even though now it's on the table. Yahweh leads by example, and he loves them like that of a wife. Okay? Hence, he's even referred to Israel being the bride of also Yahushua, who is in essence, in that oneness with him, so to speak, in purpose. So it's referred to as also as the bride of the Messiah, Yahushua. Let's keep reading though. I was their husband, declares Yahweh, right? Or Elohim. But this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, declares Yahweh. I will put my law within them, and I will write on their hearts, and I will be their God. See, their God. And they shall be what? My people. And no longer shall each one teach his neighbor and each his brother, saying, know Yahweh. For they shall all know me, from the least of them to the greatest, declares Elohim. For I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sins no more. You see that? Forgiveness, and no longer remembering the sins that took place with Israel. But they'll make it like, oh no, they was broken beyond recovery. Not true at all. Not true at all. And you can read more into the Romans account, and it'll address that as well, that they didn't go beyond recovery. Jeremiah 31:31. I'm about to kill this. Behold, the days are coming, declares or Elohim, when I make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Yehudah, which is Judah. See that again? He rejected them, but you're going to establish a new covenant yet future with the same tribes and lineages, the descendants. Those are ancestors that did that. How you going to put the entirety of the entire lineage of people into this rejection, but then say, oh, it's okay for the Gentiles? What sense do that make? Do you realize that the Gentiles, first of all, didn't even know God? They only learned by him by means of Israelites who was prophesying and teaching them about him in the first place so that they can come into the accurate understanding. He was always using Israel to reach those on the outside nations so that they can benefit under our rulership of Israel, because Israel was his chosen. You get what I'm saying? It's as simple as that. Now all of a sudden Gentiles acting like, oh, he just dished his own inheritance, who he made the promises with, because of their sins, but then he accepted the Gentiles who had all kind of pagan gods and caused the Israelites to sin with the influences that they seen that they was doing. What sense do that make? That would be so biased and unfair. Reject my own for their flaws, but then accept the bigger flaws that come from the Gentiles who never even knew me, never served me, and was never even part of my chosen. And I never once dealt with the nations. I dealt with the Israelites, and they talked to the nations my commands. Like, let my people go. See how they flip it all around and it don't even make sense. But then when it comes to their mistakes, oh, he's so forgiving and he's understanding and you can never leave. He can never leave you. You can only leave him. But then they come to the Israelites. Oh, he rejected them. Like, come on. Like, they're lying, right? Isaiah 42:6. I am Yahweh. I have called you in righteousness. I will take you by the hand and keep you. I will give you as a covenant for the people, a light for the nations. See, Israelite is that light that will bring peace to the nations and direct them in which they should go, because they are led by their king, Yahushua, and he is led by our father, Abba, Yahweh, right? Or Elohim, or God. Hebrews 8:7. For if that first covenant had been faultless, there would have been no occasion to look for a second. See how straightforward that is? Come on now. You can't get no more straighter than that. Galatians 3:17. This is what I mean. The law which came 430 years afterwards, talking about the Egyptian captivity, does not annul a covenant previously ratified by God so as to make the promise void. Once again, they dissecting the heck out of that. Oh, he gave up on his people. No, he did not. His people gave up on him. They got scattered. They got cursed. Deuteronomy 28 addressed that. But he also talks about that their future generations, way after the fact, will come back to him, and a remnant of them will be gathered from all of the nations, in which the world will be blessed once they are restored. And it also talks about them being reaped. 12,000 from each tribe through Revelation. See that? On Galatians 3:16. Now the promises were made, see, look at this, to Abraham and to his offspring, the Israelites. It does not say into offsprings, referring to many, but referring to one. See, because that's the chosen nation that Yahweh has put in place to rule over the rest of the world, the nations, the Gentiles, the other people, the diverse races of other people that came through us way after the fact. You follow me? And to your offspring, who is Yahushua. Even the Messiah is through the lineages. So to abandon that and to say he gave up on his own people, then that would include the Messiah who came in the likeness of his people and who paid the penalty no different than his people by becoming a curse like his people, hung from a tree like his people, beaten with a whip like his people, bared the same skin complexion as his people, and faced the same racial discriminations no different than his people. So to subtract the tribes and the essence of what they represent, we talking about stuff that was so important that it spared David's life because the Messiah was going to come through the Davidic bloodline. Remember when the Bathsheba, he could have been put to death according to the law, but because the promise was made that the Messiah would come through his lineage, see that pure bloodline, it spared his life. Even the witnesses know that. They teach that, but then they'll say, oh, no, it don't really matter about none of that stuff. It's just about everybody. Do what you want. Break the commandments. It's not important. They're done away with. Don't worry about the Shabbat. Let's just stick to Sunday, the day of the venerable sun. And even though we say everything else is pagan, we wear pagan wedding rings, and you can see the customs of that and the pagan finger that you put it on of how supposed to flex the heart. All this stuff through Egyptian and Babylonian worship. Like, they are so selective, it's ridiculous. But they liars, straight fraudulent, right? Romans 11:136. Let's read this again. I ask then, has God rejected his people? By no means. For I myself am an Israelite, a descendant of Abraham, a member of the tribe of Benjamin. God has not rejected his people whom he foreknew. Do you know that the scripture says of Elijah how he appeals to God against Israel? Elohim, they have killed your prophets. They have demolished your altars, and I alone am left, and they seek my life. But what does God reply to them? And look at this, because they say everybody just rejected them. Listen to this. I have kept for myself 7,000 men who have not bowed the knee to Baal, the devil worship. So at that present time, there's a remnant chosen by grace. See, they don't read the rest of that to you, because then you'll know it's baloney what they talking about and how they try to manipulate the Messiah's words about your house abandoning you. Yes, their house was abandoned to them. Deuteronomy even said it was going to be cursed. It also talks about going into slavery. It also talks about going into oppression. It also talks about the curse will blast through the descendants for generations. But it also said at the end, they will awaken from their slumber, a remnant, and they will come back to him. And he will awaken that sleeping giant of Judah, Yehuda. And the tribes that scattered, that you say he rejected, he promised to regather them and still carry out the very purpose, because, Yahweh keeps his promises. And his covenant, is everlasting, forever. It literally says that in various scriptures. See how they lie? Do you see how they lie? Right? And it's way more than that, right? But that's what Jehovah's Witnesses do. They just take what they can, pick it, cherry pick from it, and then be like, but you got to be a Jehovah's Witnesses, and you got to listen to the organization, because the governing body is put in place by Jehovah. His name is definitely not Jehovah. If you really don't know anything to do with the Hebrew or in the Greek, the Aramaic fragments, if you don't really know anything about how transliterations and translations work, you are completely lost. You don't change names. For starters, you can easily say Yahweh in English. Why do you have to change it completely when add the J when the J didn't exist there? You can clearly say Yahshua or Yahushua HaMashiach in your English tone. Simple, with the same letters that make up your alphabet. Why do you have to change it to the Greek Jesus? A completely different language. And it also means Hell Zeus. Why? They don't got like 40 different names. And if people from foreign countries come in to our country, you don't translate their names. You call them exactly what their name is. You might speak the language in a way they can understand it, but you still use that name. They lying and they change names because they wanted to whitewash the characters, put them according to their likenesses, because they stole our book. They added this religious aspect to it when it was about history. And they made the entire thing about, cults, religion, sex, and stuff of that sort to try to brainwash people. And the scriptures even told us that this would happen once we went into captivity. Identities hidden, lying us about who we are. All these religions fighting over us to get you to join their cults and their man-made doctrines. They are the equivalent of the modern-day Pharisees and Sadducees. Religion is clearly given to the scriptures of Babylon, and the scriptures clearly make mention that Yahweh or Elohim or God, he does not dwell in the walls built by human hands. He's not even found there. The heavens themselves can barely contain him. You can't place him in your man-made walls. And on top of that, carved images, pagan crosses. He didn't even die on the cross. He died on a tree. He was hung from a tree. A curse is all those who are hanging from a tree. They changed it to a cross. They changed him to a white person. They changed the hair like wool to silky smooth hair. They say that, well, fine, he's Jewish. They don't realize that the Jews, they are converts. Scriptures say fake Jews clearly in Revelation, and they're going to steal these. They're going to steal these ancient writings. They're going to change everything, right? Like, I just don't understand how people don't get this. Like, how are you reading this book and you don't get none of these stories that's literally stressed throughout the entirety of the book? The commandments are important. Keeping the Shabbat is very important. Your salvation determines on how you are keeping those things. And laws done away with, but it's the very thing that got us cursed in exile and made them, these religions, gain the world and these riches. People say they woke, but I really just don't see it, because they read the same book like we read it, and then they come up with all this new stuff. That's how you get doctrines. Just pick the scriptures you want. The entirety of the book is clear. He never gave up on his people, all right? Never. And the Gentiles can benefit under Israel, and yes, he would let them become citizens, but only if they follow the laws, they follow his people, the Israelites, because the Messiah stemmed forth from them. And if you follow the Messiah, he'll tell you the same thing. Follow the tribes, for he is from a tribe. Yahudah, Judah. Makes it clear, the root of David, right? And the promise was given to them. The Gentiles, by God's mercy, are being grafted in so that they can become a people in harmony with us. And that's going to all be taken care of when Israel's restored back their kingdoms, when they're regathered. But don't ever say in your heart the Gentiles are elevated or they are equal or they are better than the Israelites, because that's just not true. Yah chose them for a purpose. They was to be the apple of his eye. They're the ones he's married to. That's why he keeps saying they're like a wife to me, and they are bride of his son. Like, that's what people don't understand. And it's their own jealousy, envy, hatreds, and imperfect thinking that they actually question the arrangement. But if you read in Romans, it's very clear that you are not supposed to do that. If God is for us, who can be against us? Who would dare question his arrangement? And even the blood of the Lamb testifies on behalf of those in which he chooses, especially in regards to the remnant. And it do not consist of people that are outside the tribes. Clear as that. Jehovah's Witnesses just got like this random lottery if you're doing good, and if you in an organization, if you're only a witness in a religion, putting in your time and passing out some magazines to spread their doctrines is how you get the anoint. Get out of here. Then they just ignore the scriptures. Oh, well, he talked about tribes, but I'm done. But like I told you before, the scriptures is clear. Yahweh never gave up on the Israelites, okay? Ever. Even the ones when they rebelled, it was still those that stayed faithful. It's just the collective majority of them fell to sin and the error of their ways, and they paid the penalty for that. But their descendants was never, ever put under this everlasting cutting off. They're lying to you. He said they'll come back to him, and he'll have mercy, and he'll forgive them, and he'll remember their sins no more. He will regather them. He will restore their kingdoms. The whole world will be blessed by means of them. They lying to you. Remember that Yahweh will never break his promises. He don't break his covenants, and he don't lie. That's Satan, and they teaching you satanic things. Shalom, everybody.